We have heard already a little bit about the importance that private sector is part and an important part of vocational training. And you probably have also had some reference to the dual system, which is available in Switzerland, Austria and Germany, with just a few differences. So what I will present to you applies to these three countries, not only to Germany. I will start with a quick overview, and then we'll address the question, how does the dual system work? I will talk about benefits, but I will also mention some challenges we have. I will quickly address the question, what makes the dual system work, and end with the bottom line to name its quality features. Okay, the overview starts with very simplified, the common path in education and towards employment. So we have basically 10 years of school and then 3 years more with high school. School graduates can enter with the appropriate marks higher education. They can enter directly into the so-called dual system and also into full-time vocational schools. Some facts and figures to the dual system. From the side of the trainees, we can say on average over 50% of the school graduates enter the dual system. And approximately 5% of all employees in Germany are trainees. And an important fact is also that the trainees from the first month of employment receive already an allowance, an average allowance of 850 euros, which is enough to make a living in Europe, and probably is very high compared to an average salary in various other countries. From the side of the employers, we have around 430,000 out of 2 million companies, that's 20%, who provide training. Employers, and that's another point, invest for training on average 18,000 per year for each trainee, but return on investment is there because 70% is refinanced over the course of 3 years. Government shares the expenses of the dual system by providing public vocational schools and do the steering, the monitoring, and further support measures. So what makes the dual system work? And here I address the three systems and columns. It's mainly that the youth are motivated to go into that system. So they seek and find a training place, they look for information to find that training place, they need to select by themselves a suitable company depending on the occupation they want or to pursue. And the next column is filled by the employers, and also what's their motivation for employment. So we mentioned here various points. To do this, however, they also need to be certified to offer a training place, and they need, of course, to have a good system to select the appropriate candidates under the youth. The column number 3 is made up by the government. So he indicated here what their motivation is to get engaged into this system, and their supporting measures are indicated by setting up the legal framework, by delegating authorities on federal level, or what was mentioned, the Länder earlier, and that they provide the academic part of the training in the public schools. So if I just simplify the whole system, I would say you need to sign a training contract, the trainee and the employer. Learning with the work in process and independent examination is a very important part. Stakeholder support and assure quality of training based on consensus. I will dig into this a little bit later. All training standards are national. They are up to date, they are continuously updated and modernized, and they are definitely demand driven. And the dual system is a part of a legal framework. So again, if I can summarize, we have basically two worlds under one roof, and that applies for each occupation. So you have the world of work on your left-hand side, the company, and you have the world of education. These are the public vocational schools. The delegate from Malaysia already indicated that they were following the German model. The world of work is on average between 70% and 80% of the training time. The time trainees spend in the public schools is around 20 to 30%. Dual basically is the term we use because learning, training, experience takes place at two learning venues, in the company and in the school. Of course, the chambers and the government, the federal and the state are involved, basically setting up the foundation for this house. The benefits of dual education and training for the trainees is that they gain the appropriate skills necessary for employment. Important also is that they get from the very first moment, and I've mentioned that already, an allowance. And at the end of the day, they become capable and certified to access different occupational pathways and educational opportunities. The benefits for the employers are that they gain highly competent employees, and particular ones who identify with the company, which is a very important social aspect. They save on recruitment and retaining costs. They also realize a high return on investment on the long run. As I indicated earlier, 70% of their cost is retained during the training. And it's a contribution to corporate social responsibility. Maybe that's the right time to indicate to you that employers is not necessarily Volkswagen, Mercedes-Benz, Siemens, and all the other large companies, but the vast majority of employers are small and medium enterprises. It's the plumber next door, the electrician, the beauty parlor. These are basically the majority of training places. For the government, it's important that the dual system is highly capable of modernizing itself, particularly in line with technology change. And I will also mention that in context of digitalization. And what is also an important aspect is that through this system we receive very early indicators of labor market demand and supply, because the labor market basically is directly involved. So we are not putting so much resources on projections and so on. The current challenges are to finding the right company for many trainees, for the employers to finding the right people. And this is getting more and more difficult, and usually this is due to technological change, which is far more demanding than in the past. And for the government that's also important, because the demographic changes are quite challenging. Okay, the last two slides from my side. So what makes the dual system work? We have a long-standing history of trades, highly developed economic structures which require highly skilled employees. The economy is based on well-established small and medium enterprises. There is well-established interest and committed from the private sector. Competent representation of employers and employees via chambers and unions. Broad-based acceptance of training standards. Strong regulatory capacity of government. Competent teachers and trainers, and the readiness of young people to enter for vocational training. In bottom line, the cooperation of government, business community and social partners is the first quality feature. Learning within the work process is the second one. The acceptance of national standards countrywide, qualified training staff, and institutionalized research in the dual training and vocational training sector. Thank you very much, and maybe during the question and answer session we have time to exchange on these topics a little bit more. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kirsten. Now I may call upon Mr. Craig Robertson, Chief Executive Director, TAFE Directors, Australia. He will share his view about the role of industry in apprenticeship training, successful model of Australia. Mr. Craig Robertson.
Good afternoon, and thank you to NAVTEC for the invitation that's been extended to me to be here today and tomorrow, and also a welcome to all of our international guests and also all of our distinguished guests from Pakistan. It's a great delight to be here. For those of you who understand the great game of cricket, I promise there'll be no ball tampering and no sandpaper in today's presentation. You have to be a cricketing nation to understand that one. What I would like to start off though is to talk to you about very quickly about the World Federation of Colleges and Polytechnics. One of the positions I come here today is as the chair of the World Federation of Colleges and Polytechnics. They are colleges, community colleges in North America and Canada, further education colleges in the United Kingdom. And in October, in Australia, we are running a World Congress of all members of the World Federation, looking at this topic called Preparing for the Skills Future Now. I do have some pamphlets here that I can present to you, but I do encourage you that if October you can travel, that you think about coming down to this very important Congress, because what the World Federation seeks to do is to set new directions for TVET around the world, and you can share from a lot of partner organisations worldwide. Let me do an introduction though to Australia's apprenticeship system, and some of these things I'm going to be going over quite quickly because in fact there's a lot of similarities to the previous presentation from Germany. One of the differences that we have in Australia compared to Germany is over the last 20 years we've encouraged most of our senior school students to complete to year 12. That's usually 17 or 18 years of age, and then to commence an apprenticeship. Whereas before, you used to complete to year 10, you'd be 15 or 16, and you would go into employment and you'd start an apprenticeship. That's probably been the major trend that's occurred in Australia, and it'll be interesting to see where we go to next, because there are many people in Australia now saying that maybe trying to keep people at school until they're 17 doing subjects that they don't really like, they'd be far better off going into the workplace. So maybe we'll be coming across to Germany to relearn some of those aspects from Germany in the future. The context for the Australian apprenticeship system has to be thought through in terms of what our labour market is like. And in Australia, we have a very formalised labour market, again similar to the German system. They're a strong industrial protection system with minimum wages and conditions for the majority of employees. There is small informal gig work, as they call it, that falls outside of the regulated job market. There is strong engagement of women in all jobs. Apart from some of these trade apprenticeships that I'm going to talk about, there are women there, but not to the level they would be in other occupations. And so for trade jobs in Australia, which I'll get to in a minute, most have to complete an apprenticeship, in other words, a 4-year training program to be classed as a tradesperson. And some tradespersons then need to complete a separate registration and additional test to continue to operate in Australia. We really have several models of apprenticeship. The first one there is what we would consider to be our traditional trade apprenticeships, which is 3 to 4 years, and it's what we would call entry-level training. You would generally leave school, as I said, as an 18-year-old, and you'd go into employment and you'd do this formal training as part of your employment. About 20 years ago, or almost possibly 30 years ago, in the face of very high youth unemployment in Australia, the traineeship model was introduced, and that's mainly for the services industries, and you would do a traineeship for 12 to 18 months. Again, it's primarily focused at entry-level training. Maybe you've been unemployed or you've left school and you've only had casual work. You would be engaged with an employer and you do your training as part of that. Recently in Australia, as is the case in the United Kingdom, we have been introducing what we call higher level apprenticeships, and they can be at the technician level or they can be at the professional level. So for example, we now have in Australia, although very, very small, if you're wanting to become an accountant, you can start as an apprenticeship program with some of our accounting firms, and that follows very much a model that's been introduced in the United Kingdom recently. I'm going to skip that one. Here's to give you a bit of a sense of what's been going on in Australia in the last couple of years. In Australia, we have had a declining participation in our apprenticeships, and the Australian government has a strong program to regrow apprenticeship numbers in Australia. But these figures represent the difference between 2015 and 2016. And these are apprenticeships, and you can see they're in the main technical areas of engineering, automotive, construction, electrotechnology, the food trades, horticulture, and some others. Then if I move quickly on to the next slide, which is traineeships. Remember, traineeships are those shorter courses, are in the services sector primarily. You can see the different sorts of occupations that a traineeship would work in, primarily around community and personal service workers. That's in the health area, like in aged care and childcare. Clerical and administrative workers, machinery operators, and labourers. Again, I'm going to repeat some of the elements that our German speaker has just spoken about, but the apprenticeship system in Australia requires good cooperation and collaboration between the employer, the apprentice and the training organisation, with oversight, of course, from government. So, of course, the employer must supervise the training on the job and must offer a range of training experience while that person is employed with them. The apprentice is required to go to off-the-job training, and generally, out of the 4 years of an apprenticeship, about 25% would be undertaken off the job. And of course, they're expected to train on the job as well. The training organisation, of course, organises the off-the-job training, and they provide a lot of support to the apprentice to help them firstly engage into the world of work, and secondly to participate in their qualification. What are some of the assurances around apprenticeships? Remember, I've said that we're a highly regulated labour market, and so we cover that by a contract of training. We have a qualification which is nationally defined, and a training organisation must develop with the employer and with the individual what we call a training plan. And that's where the provider sits down with the employer and to say, this is your responsibility in terms of taking on this student. I'm going to finish with what are the benefits of an apprenticeship from the way that we see it. Again, it's similar to what we've heard from Germany. We see there's a two-way benefit. Apprentices develop and enhance their skills in a work setting, but equally apprentices can bring latest technology and approaches from their training organisation, which we think is very important as all countries, all industries are facing challenges from automation. Employers have access to semi-skilled workers. Remember, in the early stages they are semi-skilled. They have access to those workers earlier. Employers passed on the skills of the craft. That's the important thing around apprenticeship. And many people prefer to learn in a practical way. And so that's what we see as the benefits. And I'll finish there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Now I may request Mr. Kenneth Henry from UK to throw some light about successful implementation of apprenticeship British experience. Thank you.
This is next previous button.
Okay, thank you. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ken Webb. I'm not a policy maker. I believe many of you here in the audience are from colleges. I'm a principal and chief executive of a college. I'd like to thank Mr. Chima for the invite to come here today. I think it's been an excellent conference. It's my first time in Pakistan, and I have got to say what I see is a very dynamic country, full of enthusiasm to succeed, and I wish everyone the very best. Mr. Chima talked about bad press that Pakistan had received. And I actually come from Northern Ireland, from Belfast, and Belfast has had its share over the years of bad press. I think during that time, resources actually went into security and not into supporting industry. We lost sight of skills and we ended up with high unemployment. So 11 years ago, the government actually decided to actually focus on improving skills, and they reduced the number of colleges of higher and further education down to a small number, and they invested heavily in it. Previously, investment went first of all to universities, then to grammar schools, then to secondary schools, and then into technical education. So we now have, under a strategy called FE Means Business, our business model now is we are there to help businesses grow and innovate. If businesses grow and innovate, they need people with the right skills. We're in the business of giving people those skills so as they can come out of educational disadvantage and poverty and into employment and a career. So it's quite a simple business model, and it's one that's worked exceedingly well. 35% now of students are now in technical education. Our apprenticeship programs are growing. We've introduced higher level apprenticeships, and parents' attitudes are slowly changing because the cost of university education is extremely high, and we're seeing quite significant graduate unemployment because graduates are coming out without skills that industry actually needs. They have academic knowledge. We, in fact, have gone from high unemployment to a situation of technically full employment. We have significant shortages in health, in aerospace, and in computing. Each week, pupils from secondary and grammar schools aged between 14 and 16 years of age come to the college for 1 day a week and study vocational courses and get vocational qualifications. A third of all courses must be vocational courses in the curriculum mix. You can see from the slide that some of the background information about the college. I would say that, as you can see, we're a very small country, and our focus has got to be is we've got to be able to compete in the world stage. So to that end, we actually have partnerships in over 20 countries. And I'm delighted to say that for the last 18 months we've been working with Premier Energy here in Lahore, and along with Mr. Daniel Siddiqui, who is a real Pakistani entrepreneur, and we also are now engaged with the University of Central Punjab. So the apprentice models across the UK differ. That's because in England, Scotland and Wales and Northern Ireland, they come under what are devolved administrations. The Northern Ireland apprenticeships have actually been developing, and I'll speak really about from a Northern Ireland perspective, because although we're only 2% of the UK population, in world skills competitions our apprentices count for 50% of the medals actually achieved. And I think that's testament to the success of the apprenticeship model. We have 2 apprenticeship schemes at level 2 and level 3, and a higher level scheme which goes up now to level 8. Apprentices must be contracted to work. They must be paid a minimum wage. They usually are a 2-year program at each level, and they spend usually a day a week at the college, but we now have got great flexibility in actually in how we actually apply that. So some industries want people to be in the college for a detailed period of time so as they can come up to a competency that the industry actually wants, so as they can be useful workers. So we will actually have very intense programs. And you can see the other details there. The apprenticeship ranges is enormous, and you can see some of those there. But in terms of, this is my own college, each of the colleges would have some specialist areas. Ours is in software engineering. In mechatronics, we're a Siemens Academy, the only one in Europe, I think. And we also have particular expertise in actually training trainers. And we do that from Japan, right across Africa, and right across Europe too as well. I just mentioned about the higher level apprenticeships, which Greg has said about it being introduced. This is actually a really growing area, a really exciting area, and one I think I can see Pakistan moving towards as things develop. There is still some questions about these because the main qualification that civil servants wish to have is a foundation degree, and I really don't agree with that, because a foundation degree is an academic approach to then go on to an academic qualification. So there's a debate going on at the minute, but we actually have higher level apprentices who are becoming accountants, who are becoming leaders and managers too as well. I just want to briefly mention some of the best key features: employer engagement, quality of teaching and learning, tracking progress and participating in skills competitions. The first I would say is about engagement with employers. Going back to that model, we're there to support businesses. It's not that businesses should try and actually work in some sort of a framework that we want as bureaucrats to have them apply. We're there to give people the competencies so as businesses can actually prosper. So to that end, what we will do is we'll engage with businesses individually, and I'm working with over 5,000 businesses, and we will try and understand exactly what it is that they want as their needs are developing, and then incorporate that inside the framework in which we work to actually deliver. So we need to be responsive, and TVET needs to be responsive to what industry wants. Secondly, I just want to mention about staff. You cannot actually produce a quality outcome with students unless you have high quality staff, and they have current industrial experience, and that you continuously professionally develop them. We spend a considerable amount of our funding in actually ensuring our staff are of the highest quality, and I could not stress strongly enough how important that is. 11 years ago, when we were first merged, our quality was rubbish. Our success rates are only half of what they are today, and the reason why they're doubled in that 11 years is because we have invested in our staff. So tracking is another important aspect, and critically that you make sure that you're supporting students. And then finally, it has been mentioned here time and time again today about the participation in skills competitions. That and project-based learning are critical ways of ensuring that students get engaged and the quality soars. So finally, I would just like to say, this conference is great because we can share our experiences, and it is great to be able to work together. We learn from all of our partnerships, and we hope that we share from our partnerships too as well. And can I wish everyone the very best going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, in the end, may I call upon Mr. Jesiki Bansaike, Director General NITA Sri Lanka, to throw some light on industry's role in TVET development.
This is next.
Okay, thank you. Good evening.
The chairman and other panel members, including Dr. Dr. Kirsten and ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I want to thank Mr. Shima for inviting us, my other friends and me, to this international forum. Thank you very much. Then the one I am going to talking about is the industrial development in TVET, industry involvement in TVET development. Okay, first of all, I want to give a brief introduction about the institute where I am working. Actually, we started the apprenticeship training activities in 1971. We established by a Parliament Act in 1971. Now it is almost 47 years. We are doing the apprenticeship training. It is completely, we are based on the industry, not in the training centers. We are completely based in the industry. Now we are training around 30,000, 50,000 apprentices, because our country is a small country. We have population only 20 million. Now, last year we recruited around 31,000 directly for the apprenticeship training, and we are training them under 24 sectors, more than 164 craft training courses. Actually, according to our act, our vision is to become more efficient training providing organization, effectively contributing the prosperity of Sri Lanka. To achieve that vision, we use the apprenticeship training methodology to acquire employable skills through well-formulated skill training programs with highest professional standards to meet skilled manpower requirement in the industry. That's why I mentioned that we are completely based on the industry requirement, not only anything else. Then these are our stakeholders, the apprentices, then our organization NITA and the industry. We are conducting mainly these programs. First one is we call apprenticeship training program. In that one we have 3 categories. First one is craft training. That is, we are training young people to become some craft technicians. That is national level occupation, something like automobile technician, electrician. We categorize them under this category, craft category. Then again we have a situational training methodology. That means if some organization need to train apprentices for their requirement, then we train them under situational category. As an example, if someone want to become a diamond cutter or gem polisher or somebody like that, then we have to use the situational methodology. That in that case we are preparing separate syllabus or skill standard for that industry, and we will train them. Most of the emerging trades come in under this category. This craft one, the village level one is most of the traditional courses we are conducting, that wood crafting. Every country you have some traditional trades. We train them under that category. On-the-job training means in Sri Lanka we have other training providers also, private sector and the government sector. Government sector we have another big organization called Vocational Training Authority. They are mainly providing the institutional training, not the on-the-job training. They have to come to NITA and register with us to get their on-the-job training part. Maybe they are following in the institute 6 months or 1 year. After that, at least they have to come and register with us to get on-the-job training in the industry to complete their certificate. Then the in-plant training means we are providing the in-plant training for the university graduates, engineering graduates. We are working with now 16 universities in Sri Lanka. Another 10 private universities. They come for their in-plant training to NITA, maybe 6 months training, 9 months training, or 1 year training, something like that. We are conducting that one also. Then again we have conducting competency-based training programs and also dual training programs. I am not going to explain the dual training programs. Most of the speakers before me, they explained about the dual training methodology. Actually, this is our training structure, the training plan. It is you can see that school leavers through career guidance programs, they come to us and we conduct an interview and we sign a contract with them. and we recruit them to our program, and we place them in the industry. Before placing industry, we are conducting basic training for them, maybe 3 months, at least 3 months. We are providing the skills they require to go and work in the workplace. If automobile technician, we give them a basic skills to become an automobile technician. Then, while they are working in the industry, we bring them to our centers during the weekends and the after office hours, after working hours, and then we provide them the theoretical knowledge through that supplementary instruction and the correspondent lesson methodology, using that methodology. That means we give them a theoretical input also. That means that we are completing the theory and practical training during that period. Then again we are providing vocational English and entrepreneurship skills and the basic IT skills. Again we are conducting continuous assessment during their training period in the industry. Then final assessment is also conducted by our organization using 2 assessors. Here I think you are using 3 assessors, we are using 2 assessors. Then certification, and the biggest advantage we are getting from the apprenticeship training is most of the apprentices, because at the very beginning, from the very beginning they are in the industry, they will get the employment. The employable skill is, employable rate percentage is very high, about 85% to 30%. During that time also they are getting an allowance from the industry. Again, this is something regarding the skill standard development. I am not going to elaborate that one because NITA, we are developing the skill standards. We have committee called National Industry Technical Advisory Committee. We have 24 committees for different sectors. Through their contribution, we analyze the demand, industry demand, and the information we got from the other surveys. We develop the skill standards. First we do the job analysis, then development, validation and revision. Normally every 2 years we are doing the revision of the skill standard we already developed. Again, this one is the other part. We are conducting the RPL, recognition of prior learning. Up to now we have signed more than 400 MOUs, Memorandum of Understanding, with the industry people to develop their workforce through the RPL system. Other than that, we are doing we are conducting RPL programs for with the Foreign Employment Bureau to certify the people who are willing to go for foreign employment. These are some statistics about our training. In last year, we have trained around 50,000 people. Then we established in 1971. We are always trying to fulfill the industry requirement, but anyway we couldn't fill that one to up to 100%. Still they are complaining that they don't have enough skilled people, because it is always happening, I think, every country in Pakistan and everywhere. We are conducting stakeholder workshops for the people who are helping. That means we are, time to time, we are having workshops with the industry people we are conducting stakeholder workshop to appreciate their service given to us. Thank you, because I just run through this one because the running time is running fast there. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you very much. I apologize, my honorable speakers. Due to some paucity of time, and as you know, we were supposed to finish by 5 because our honorable foreign delegates have to go for a city tour. So I had to request time and again to please cut it short. So I apologize for that.
No.
So with this, we come to end of today's activities. Now buses are ready in front of this hotel, and 5:30 we will be expecting that yes, all participants and honorable delegates. City tour is only for honorable foreign delegates, so they are requested to assemble in the lobby by 5:30. Thank you very much.